Hello and welcome to the fourth of our spreadsheet training sessions for Excel 2007. What we're going to have a look at today, or what we're going to start with, is the concept of conditional formatting. So we've already looked at the idea of formatting. So formatting is anything to do with the type of font you're using, the colour of the font, the size of the font, the cell colour. So this area here where we've got bold, for example, I can change the colours to red here. I'm just going to undo that. I can choose a different size font if I want to, a different type of font. I can fill the background in different colours. So these are all formatting tools. Now, conditional formatting is the idea of the formatting changing automatically when certain conditions are met. Okay, now they've made great leaps and bounds in conditional formatting in 2007. Okay, and so conditional formatting tab is on the Home tab, and you can see it's under Styles, and it can sort of be thought of as a style because you can sort of predefine what you want to happen. You want it to go a certain font, a certain colour, a certain size when a certain result occurs. So if I just click on the conditional formatting, let's just give you an idea straight away of what we're actually talking about here. So I'll do the first one, and these are the simplest. So highlight cell rules, okay, and then we've got a bunch of options: greater than, less than, between, equal to. Okay, so let's just have a very simple one that's greater than. Okay, so this is already I think it's picked the center number, or a number close to the center. And you can see already the preview is showing us. So if I change this number to say 5, for example, we get. So what's happening is you can just read it. Format cells that are greater than 5. Okay, and then this has got a predetermined, a light red fill with dark red text. And there's a bunch of predefined ones there. We'll look at customizing them in a minute. So let's have a look at green maybe, and let's say that anything over 10 is great. Okay, so I press OK, and there we go. Instantly, what we've got is on the selection that we've applied this to, any cell that contains a figure over 10 automatically gets this formatting applied to it. And these are live. So if this figure 11, if we get this updated and we change it, this figure that was 6, sorry, we change it to 11, you can see then that the formatting automatically applies to it. Okay, so that's what it is in a nutshell. Let's select that area again and just see what other types of built-in rules we've got. So we can say less than. Okay, so and notice at the moment it's still kept the other one running. So let's have a look at this. So what we've got now is any that are less than 20 are being shown in red, and then any that are more than 20 are being shown in green, because we haven't removed the previous conditional format that we applied. So what we've done is we've got the new formula applying, but we can still, as we can see from the green that's still on there, we've still got the condition. We probably haven't got the condition being applied. Let's have a look. But we've still got the formatting left over because we haven't gone in and changed it. So what you've got is you've got this clear rule, and you can either clear rules from selected cells or clear rules from the entire sheet. So I've already selected these ones, so I'm going to just choose this. And what this should do is this should just reset all our formatting back to normal, which indeed it has done there. So let's select it again. Let's have a look at what else we can do. We can say between. Okay, so look, and it starts off with 11 and 25. That's the sort of the middle area, isn't it, if you think about it? And obviously we can change any of these that we want to whatever figures we want to have in there. Let's look now at picking our own custom format. So we're getting the idea that there's a whole bunch of rules that we specify on what occurs for the formatting to take place, and at the moment we've just been looking at the various different predefined options that come with Excel, and these are probably good enough. But sometimes you may want to go in and choose your own formatting. So let's look at custom formatting. And what you do is the format cells come up. So let's choose our own. Well, what I'd like to have happen is I'd like this, let's say, this light green colour. Okay, I'd like that to apply. I also want to have a border around it. I'll leave the font as it is. Where else? What else do I want? I want the colour of my text to change, which is one of these. Here it is, colour automatic. I'm going to say colour bright orange. Okay, so what are we doing? We're saying put a light green background, we're having a border around it, and we're having the font in orange. So I press OK, and there we go. Let's just press OK again, deselect, and you can see that we've got exactly that. We've got a border around each box. Okay, we've got the background is green and the font colour is orange. Actually doesn't look too bad, that colour combination. I thought it was going to look terrible, but that's not too bad. Okay, so again, so this time I'm not going to highlight the areas. I'm just going to clear rules from the entire sheet, and that's a much faster way of doing it. Although I am going to go and select my area. Obviously, the conditional formatting only applies. So let me select a larger area. So now the conditional formatting will take place over this entire selected from A1 down to F26. But obviously there's only content in that middle section of squares from B2 down to D18. But let's have a look. So we've got some other nice predefined ones. So top 10%. This would be quite handy. Sometimes, you know, you want to, now this is showing us what is in the top 10% of numbers. So obviously 38 is the highest. So the top 10 numbers we've got here are 32, 33. Or the top 10% of numbers, I'm sorry. And again, exactly the same options, predefined ones, or go in and choose a custom format. And here we can increase the range to, let's say, give us the top third. Okay, so the top 33%. Okay, that's great. Just clear the entire sheet. Don't know whether that's the best way or not, because I keep selecting it afterwards. What else have we got? We've got the top 10%, we've got the top 10 items, okay, and we can choose 11, 12, so obviously the more items I increase, the more it will fill up, so that's showing me the top 20, of things. Now, so I think the rules are quite easy, and then you've got things like above average and below average. Okay, so that will find the halfway point and just choose options that are just below. I'm going to cancel that so I don't have to keep resetting it. We've also got these colour scales. Now these are really impressive. I can just roll over them to get preview, so I'm not clicking anything. And it's sort of, this one, for example, and they all sort of work on them. You can think of them as like temperature scales almost. So the higher the numbers are becoming sort of hotter colours, and they're going through the yellows to the oranges, and they'll become reds. So that's really nice. And I can just roll over. This does it sort of the other way around. They become cooler, the colours, and we've got sort of greens. So just really nice. And obviously my numbers here are all quite going along in a format. If I add in, let me just add in a bit more randomness to some of these numbers. Maybe add in a few less fives. But just, there we go. Now let's have a look now, because it was all looking very neat and tidy, but so there. So now we can see, you know, we've got a blue that's just off the scale there, because the numbers are jumping around. And this is where it works a bit better, because your eye is just immediately caught by any numbers. So most of our numbers now are in this sort of yellow and green range. And what's actually happening is that very big number, this 322, it's just pushing things off the scale. So let's try now, because it's trying to incorporate so many different types of scales. So let's have a look at the colour scheme now. There we go. I think that works a little bit better. Okay, so that's just colour schemes. Okay, we've also got this nice idea of icon sets. And this is just going to put a little image next to different things. So we could have the idea that maybe like the traffic light system, okay? Red, yellow, and green. I forgot what they were for a second there. And so you can see here that all of the top third of values, or the values that are in the top 30%, are being turned green. So there's only a few of them that are up there in their 50s. The majority are in either in the yellow or the red section, and which is taken to be the values that are in the first third or second third of colours, of sizes. Okay, and you can have ticks, exclamation marks, you can have arrows, you know, so these are just quite nice additional little features. You can have sort of Wi-Fi strength signals, that's a nice one. So yeah, so these are just, and we can click on the More Rules button, okay, and then, so what's happening here is we can then define exactly how these rules are taking place. So when the value is greater than or equal to 67%, okay, so it works out whatever 67% is, okay, and then it makes it, if it's greater than or equal to that percent, it's colouring it in green. Okay, so let's change that down. Let's say 50% is our green, and then let's say that 30% is our amber, and then less than 33% is our reds. Okay, so let's just press OK. And now that way, because I've now gone in and modified it specifically, we can see that we get a greater spread of the green numbers. The greens, again, because I've just got a few random colour, a few numbers that are in the highest percentage, it was sort of pushing the skew down in a way. So I've just opened up the budget that we've been working on over the number of weeks. And what we're going to do is we're going to start looking at the idea of some new formulas. So let's start with just refreshing ourselves over the idea of the sum formula, because the rest of them are going to be based on this. Okay, and most of the formulas in Excel work the same way. There's some word that denotes what the formula does, okay, and then often things go in brackets, and the things that are in brackets, whatever the word on the outside is, will be applied to those brackets. Actually, I'm making it sound more complicated than it is, but let's just have a look. So let's just quickly refresh ourselves on the sum formula, and I'm just going to, I'll just do a new sum formula to add up the amount we've spent all year. So let's put in here yearly total, okay? And I'm going to do a formula, so I'm going to start with equals. We always start with equals. I'm going to say equals sum, open brackets, and then I choose my area or my range that I want to add up. Okay, and I can either do it by clicking and dragging with the mouse, or I can simply type in the cell references. So I'm going to type them in. I'm going to do B17, get my little blue square. My B17 comes up in blue. That's just like my visual clue to check that I'm on the right course. Then I'm going to do colon, because we know that colon means 2. So from B17 to M17. And then do my closing bracket to make it nice and neat and tidy. Just a quick check that the blue box covers the entire area I want it to. It does. I press return, and we can see that we've spent £7,188.34. Okay, so that's quite a spending over the year. But that process of writing sums in, or writing formulas in that way, so it was the word sum, and basically sum whatever's in the brackets. Okay, that's the way to think about it. Sum whatever's in the brackets. So let's see if there's what other formulas they've got that we can use. So I've already written the word average here. Let's see what the average amount that we're spending is. Now we could write, this is where Excel really starts to get into its own and take off. Because we could, you know, most people know the formula for average, you know, just to know how you do it. What you do is you add them all up, and then you divide by the number of things you've added up. So what we would do is we'd add up, we'd do our sum formula here essentially. So we'd add all these up all across the bottom, and then we'd divide by 12, and that would give us our formula for averaging. But the nice people at Microsoft, when they were designing Excel, they were like, well, why do we have to write a more complicated formula? why don't we just write an average formula for you that does exactly that? So it does the 2 stages, it adds everything up and then divides by the number there are. And this is where life starts to get nice and easy using Excel, because once you understand the concept of how formulas are built, then all you need to know is what's the key word that starts the formula, and away we go. So I'm going to say, and the one in this case is average. Okay, we can see it. It's being shown to me in the little box below. So, and this works exactly the same as sum. Okay, I'm practically writing the exact same sum that I wrote to do the yearly total, to do the monthly average. The difference being that one had the word average on it and the other had the word sum on it. And this time I'm just going to do it via the mouse because, you know, it's exactly the same. So I'm going to select the same range that I chose last time. I'm going to go from B17, but this time I'm clicking and dragging and I'm going to go to M17. Okay, so we've gone from B17, M17, be nice and neat and tidy, close up my brackets, press return. And we get the result of £599.03. Okay, so that is the average amount that's been spent each month. Okay, so virtually £600. Well, let's see if there's any other formulas that sort of follow this pattern, and almost every formula follows this pattern. Some are a little bit more complicated, indeed, but they're all sort of, you know, once you get the hang of it. So what would be the best month? Well, to me, the best month when I'm paying bills is the month when I pay the least, the minimum, okay? And so there's a formula that will tell us what the minimum amount is in a given range. And I'm going to type in exactly, so the minimum formula, minimum's a bit of a long word, so it gets abbreviated just to min, okay? And just with that, so by now, hopefully, just by me saying, well, it's the min formula, hopefully in your head, before I write it, you're thinking what it would be, how it would be laid out. And what it would be was it would be equals min, and then we follow the same pattern as before. Open brackets, this time I'll type it in, B17, colon, M17. And so close brackets. And so let's have a look. So the minimum amount is £448.96. And now what might be slightly confusing is that there is no £448.96 in any of our months. And the reason is because I've told them all just to not have any decimal places. Okay, you can see all these numbers up above here. These are all, you know, a lot of these have got decimal places. This one's 13.11 plus 17.95 plus 232.91. Well, just to make life nice and simple, I told the program just to round everything up. And what we've got up here is we can decrease the decimal places, obviously down to having no decimal places, which we're on, or we can increase the decimal places. Now I'm betting, and hopefully I'm right, that if I increase the decimal places twice, okay, there we go. We now see £448.96. So that's an interesting concept, that when we decrease the decimal places, it will round things up or down to match the decimal place system. Okay, so this is showing us at 449, but in actuality it's 448.96. So hopefully that's not too confusing, but that's great. So let's go back to the formula. So we just typed in min up here, and then we did a range, and it's shown us the minimum amount. Well, let's do the worst month. Now, what would the worst month be? Well, if minimum, the min formula, gave us the lowest number, they've hopefully done some consistency, and they have. And so what would the formula be? Max. So equals max. Okay, open brackets. I'm going to click and drag with my mouse this time, just for variety. Close my brackets. Hit return. So our worst month was £642.21. Again, we haven't got any of them with decimal places on here, but both of these end to, I think they're both exactly the same. And let's just have a little peek. Put the extra decimal places on, and there you go. We can see 642. I'll do it with this one as well. So both November and December, obviously it's Christmas time, lots of bills coming in. £642.21 gives us the most amount we spent, the maximum that we spent in that month. And the maximum is calculated by just doing max and a certain range. So hopefully that And that concept of how the formulas adapt is throughout Excel. And you can start, it automatically shows you all the different formulas here. So we just looked at min, and it's given me, it said returns the smallest numbers in a set of values. Well, returns the minute, a number from 0 to 59. So you can start just going through the formulas, and once you know basically how they're built up, which you do now, then you can start making, creating your own formulas. And what I typically do is you'll have something you want to do, and I just Google, type in Excel 2007, type in what you're trying to do, and it will give you the formula for it, and then you can just apply that formula in your spreadsheet. So let's have a quick look at something else, totally different idea. But one that we have to cover. It's one of the screenshots that you're asked to take, and that's a find and replace. Very simple concept, find and replace. I'm going to press Control F on my keyboard, and it brings up the find and replace dialog box. Now I typically use this for candidate names. I've got a big spreadsheet with 100 names in it, and it's tricky to find all the way through. So imagine somebody who's called Gas, unfortunately, and then I hit return, and look, straight away it's highlighted cell A9, which is the word gas in. Is there another gas in the spreadsheet? Yes, there is. Look, gas also appears in gas maintenance plan in A12. Okay, so again, I go to find next, and it loops back round to the beginning. So gas appears twice in this spreadsheet. So this is quite nice. You've got a big spreadsheet, you've got a lot of information. You want to find something, hold down the control key, which is the one that says CTRL on your keyboard, and then press the F key. So Control plus F brings up the find and replace dialog box. This is just the find part of it. Well, let's see what the replace does. So let's replace gas with hydrogen. And so let's see what happens. So within the find and replace, I've got the same two buttons, the find next and find all. Okay, but I've got replace and replace all. So let's do replace once, and it swaps the word gas for the word hydrogen. Press replace again, and it swaps the word gas for the word hydrogen. Okay, so if your company's changed names, or you've got a spreadsheet that you want to adapt, maybe from one month to the next, and you want it to go through. So I could have just pressed. Let's close out of this. I'm going to undo. I'm going to go back in again. Control F. I like using the keyboard shortcut. So this time I'm just going to. Last time I went through sort of manually and did replace one by one. Let's just do replace all. It tells me how many replacements it's made, 2, and then I press close. So if you're adapting a spreadsheet that a colleague's given you or something like that, very quick way of doing it is to use find and replace, type in a word, press replace all, change it throughout the whole document. Very, very useful feature. I'm actually going to reset that because there is no such thing as hydrogen maintenance plan. Well, there might be, but it'd be very expensive. One other area we're just going to have a quick look at. Sorry, I just had to sneeze there. So what we're going to look at now is under page layout, the page layout tab, we've got page setup. Okay, it's not the easiest, to be honest, to click on. It's this tiny little flyout button. I don't know why they've made it so hard to click on it, but so there's page setup. This brings back pretty much the box from 2003, the much older one. And page setup, its primary function, I think we've already mentioned, is to just turn between portrait and landscape. So that's the primary reason that most people would come into the page setup. Obviously it does other things, but we're not going to cover all of them today. But what I do want to look at is this idea of a header and footer. This is just the idea that anything that gets put in the header will be printed out at the top of each page that gets printed out. Anything put in the footer will be printed out at the bottom of each page. So here I've got one, basically there's a whole bunch of predefined things. So a very common footer that you've almost certainly seen will be page numbering. Okay, so at the bottom of every page, page 1, page 2, and it will automatically update as it gets to the different pages. These are a bunch of predefined ones, so you might have something like confidential and the date written on it, and you can go ahead, look, prepared by Dan, the time, the date. So let's just pick one. And when I do print preview, you'll see that there it is in the bottom. So they've chosen to centered and page 1. Also, this one, just for a bit of overkill, has also put it at the top as well. Okay, so this is just doing me a preview of one page. Now, so what's the first thing I noticed? Well, the first thing I noticed if I was actually printing this document out is that the layout's clearly wrong. So let's go back into page setter. Okay, let's go to page and let's make it landscape. And let's see what difference that makes. There we go, much nicer. It all fits on the page now. So I don't think I'd have these two. I wouldn't have both a header and a footer like that. So let's close the print preview. Let's go back into the page setup and the header and footer. And let's see, let's choose, what should we have in the header, if anything? Let's just have the name of the, this is called budget unformatted. Let's have the name of that. So let's go to print preview. So it's going to put whatever the file name now as my header, and those two options that we already discussed will be in the footer. Let's go back into page setup again, back into the header and footer. I can, if I wish to, customize either the header or footer, which is probably a little bit more useful. And you could tell that when I was doing it before, it put prepared by Dan in the center, and it put the page number in the left. And so let's just have M2 training, M2, sorry, mistake the M, M2 training in the bottom left-hand corner. So let's just have a little look at that, go to print preview. So now every page of print out is going to say M2 training. I probably wouldn't have this prepared by Dan, it doesn't look very good. Maybe having the title there, that's quite useful. You can, that way, if the title of your document is on every sheet that you print out, you can easily find the file name if you've just got a piece of paper. And that, so just to recap, we're going to page setup, header or footer, and this is information that will be on every printed out page. That's very important. Notice that although the headers and footers there, I can't see them in my spreadsheet. Headers and footers only apply to printed out documents. So I'm just going to finish now with a look at the idea of autofilters. Autofilters, very useful. Again, this is something I use on a daily basis. And what the idea is that, so we're going to look at now autofilters, and what they allow you to do well, I think it's actually been renamed just to filter in this version of Excel, and it just filters do exactly that. We've got, so I'm here, notice I've changed to the data tab, and one of the options I've got is filter. Very, very, very easy to implement and use. All you have to do is select what you want to filter. Now I'm going to filter the whole page. So one little trick that I've learned is in between the A and the 1, you've got this little button in the top left-hand corner. You might not even notice it was a button. When you press it, it selects all of the spreadsheet. So I'll just deselect just to show you again. Press this, selects all of the spreadsheet. The other way you can do it with a keyboard shortcut is to hold down Control and press A, and that selects everything. And I'm just doing it sort of for laziness. I'm just saying, look, I want everything to be filtered here. So I've done my select all, then I come up to my filter button and I press the filter. Now I'm going to press it again to turn it off, just so that we can notice watch what happens up here along the top. So the little arrows disappear, press it again, little arrows up here. So let's just deselect the whole sheet because it's all selected, and let's just see what's happened. So what we've got here is some sort of fictitious inventory with room numbers, items that are inside of the room, the quantities of those items, the dates that the checks have been performed, whether it was used, serviceable or unserviceable, and who checked it. So purely all fictitious stuff. So I wonder what Mrs. Green was doing and what she checked. So I click on my little drop-down arrow, and at the moment it's showing me all of them. They're all ticked. Miss White, Mr. Brown, Mrs. Green. Well, I wonder what just Mrs. Green was doing. Press OK. Just shows me Mrs. Green. You'll see that the numbers for the rows have disappeared. A load of them, well, they haven't disappeared. They've just been hidden. So all that filtering does is it just hides things you don't want to see. Okay. So let's go back in, let's bring them all back. Click on the little arrow, and I'll just choose select all, just as a quick way of bringing them all back. Let's see, so what you probably want to know from this is what are the things that are unserviceable. So I'm just going to deselect serviceable, press OK. These are all the broken items that the room has shown, that the room check has come up with. So it's quite easy. So let's also let's combine filters. So at the moment, all of them we're all showing all on every column. Okay, we're showing all apart from on the status, which we've just set to just show unserviceable things. Well, let's see which of all the things, what did Mrs. White find? Now, bear in mind, this will filter on two things now. So press OK. Aha. So Mrs. White only found one thing unserviceable. You can see from looking at this. So if we look at the status, we've got so let's turn back on serviceable. We're just playing around here. So these were all the things then that Mrs. White saw. Okay, Mrs. White seemed to do it all in one day. She just seemed to check room 2. I'm just trying to see if so let's see how many things of that there were 2 of. So when Mrs. White was checking, these are all the things that there were 2 of. There were 2 wardrobes, 2 chairs. Okay, so now the quick way you can remove filters is you can just turn them on. You can just click up here and turn it off. Okay, and then the quick way you put them back on is you select everything, hit filter again. So if you've got quite a few filters applied, sometimes it's quicker just to turn the filter off and on again rather than going through. It's a slightly clunky system whereby you come in and tick. So I can also have it show me 2 things. So let's see what Miss White and Mrs. Green did. So, okay, so that's all the things. There's not really much to say about this. It's just a very, very handy. So, you know, obviously we've got a variety of candidates and we've got a variety of different companies. And so what I do is I'll go in and I'll choose my company and it just show me the candidates from that company that I'm working with. Or I've got people that are doing the professional course or the application specialist. And so I'm always filtering different results down just to make large spreadsheets a lot more manageable. And that's done by using filters. So I'm just going to click on the filter button one more time. Removes the filter there. Nothing's ever lost. They just hide. It just hides different data, but very, very useful filters are. So that's all we're going to do for this section. There won't be a spreadsheet training session now for 2 weeks, I believe, as we've got the Bank Holiday Monday coming up. But the 5th edition of the spreadsheet training series, will be recorded in about 2 weeks' time. Okay, so I look forward to speaking to you all then. Thank you very much.